What is up, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of my Illusion of Justice Inside Making a Murderer and America's Broken Justice System book review by Stephen Avery's original lawyer, Jerome Buting. And this book is absolutely brilliant. Now, before I jump into the case, I want to say thank you for everyone that watched that first video. Jerry Buting actually tweeted out the information for my review of his book, which was absolutely amazing. So many of you commented and tweeted. If you want to join in on that conversation, my Twitter is @newscott. But it was absolutely amazing. I can't thank you guys enough. And so many people, I've had a dozen or more people, probably 24 people, message me and tell me that they have ordered the book or plan on ordering the book just based on that first video, which is amazing, which is what I want. I hope this book sells 10 million copies, because this is the narrative of Stephen Avery's trial that should be out there. This book is brilliant, and I'm only going over facts of the case. Jerry Buting talks about so much more in this book that I'm not mentioning in any of these videos. He goes over other cases, he gives background on himself, and it's absolutely brilliant. So go get it. Amazon, bookstores. Someone said they got it on iTunes. So I highly recommend getting this book, checking it out. It is definitely worth it. So good. So here we go. We're going to jump into part 2 of my review of Illusion of Justice. Jerry Buting starts out by talking about how the level of detail that Ken Kratz went into his press conference that he held was usually reviewed for closing and opening statements, states how this is unethical of a lawyer to do. He states that it is unethical for a lawyer to come forth with that much information to the public before anything actually begins. Jerry Buting states the things Ken Kratz talked about in his press conference were later unprovable based on the searches of Stephen Avery's property. Talks about when Ken Kratz is asked by a reporter if there was DNA evidence to back up anything that he said in the press conference. Ken Kratz responds with, "We're not going to comment on that." You know why? Because there was none. Zero. Nothing. So he talks about all this stuff, and then when he's questioned by obviously an intelligent reporter who can see through what Ken Kratz is doing, catches Ken Kratz off guard, and he's like, "Yeah, we got nothing." He just states, "We're not going to comment on that," because he's got nothing. Ken Kratz states he had a substantial amount of physical evidence. Jerry Buting states, however, that when tests were done, the opposite was proved. Substantial amount of physical evidence Ken Kratz state that he had. Jerry Buting and the team were able to prove when they tested all of that substantial evidence that it wasn't actually substantial at all. Jerry Buting talks about how Brendan Dassey's original lawyer, Ralph J., whose last name I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, immediately adopted Ken Kratz's narrative, but also says that he was victimized by Mr. Avery as well, he being Brendan Dassey. So he adopted Ken Kratz's narrative, but also tossed in that Brendan Dassey was victimized by Stephen Avery as well. He talks about how the initial lawyer, Ralph, waived Brendan Dassey's right to a preliminary hearing on the spot. Oh yeah, by the way, after he did that, it was found out that this lawyer, Dassey's original lawyer, was related to Teresa Halbach. You mean to tell me you didn't know this ahead of time? Then Len Kaczynski comes onto the scene. Jerry talks about how Len spoke to the press conference before ever talking with Brendan Dassey. Jerry Buting talks about how Len could have filed a motion to get the preliminary hearing back, but he didn't, making his intentions with Brendan Dassey clear. So, he could have filed a motion to get Brendan Dassey's right to a preliminary hearing back. The one that Dassey's original lawyer, the relative of Teresa Halbach, waived. So Len could have got it back, but didn't. Chose not to. You're trying to tell me that all of these people weren't working together? Yeah. Jerry Buting talks about how the deputy sheriff, Judy Dvorak, quickly focused on Stephen Avery in the rape case back in 1985. Talks about Stephen Avery's run-ins with the law back then. But that does not mean he would commit murder 20 years later. Think about how many break-in enterings there are every day, all over the world. 99% of those people don't go out there and then brutally murder and rape somebody. Talks about how Stephen Avery's original accuser back in 1985 originally described a taller man than Stephen Avery, which also had different colored eyes. Cops didn't care though, they wanted Stephen Avery, so they got Stephen Avery. Stephen Avery was actually shopping 40 miles away in Green Bay when the crime happened. He even produced a cash register receipt showing he was there. He also had 16 alibi witnesses. States that DNA was so new in 1985 that Stephen Avery had to sit in prison and wait for science to catch up. Talks about how in 1995, how Avery's lawyers at the time arranged DNA tests of scrapings collected from the 1985 victim. Avery's blood was also collected to compare, and it was proven that Stephen Avery was not the source of any of the collected materials from the fingernail scrapings. But the trial judge upheld his conviction anyway, and even said that even if this information was available in 1985, that it would not have mattered. Imagine having evidence that proves you're innocent, and then the judge stating, it doesn't matter. We want you for this crime. It doesn't matter that you proved you're innocent. That we're just going to put you in jail anyway. Ridiculous. Like, how do people get away with this? I don't get it. Jerry Buting talks about how the DNA testing of the pubic hair was what cleared him in 2003 and matched Gregory Allen. The deputy chief of Manitowoc County's police department at the time said he visited Sheriff Tom Kosarik to suggest that Allen be looked at, but was told Gregory Allen had already been ruled out. Imagine being told who did the crime and then be like, yeah, we don't want that person. We're going to let that person go so that he could possibly maybe go hurt more people. But we don't like Stephen Avery, so we're going to keep him in prison, even though we didn't do it. And we're going to let the guilty party go. Talks about how District Attorney at the time, Dennis Vogel, was told that Gregory Allen was also a much closer fit to the suspect of the 1985 case. But none of these people cared. They wanted Stephen Avery. They got Stephen Avery. And then when it was proven they could not keep him in jail any longer, he was let go. And then they did everything they could to throw him back in jail. Just crazy. They knew he didn't do it in 1985. They didn't care. They know he didn't do it in 2005. They didn't care. They still don't care. It's been proven. Easily proven. Well, maybe not easily, but it's been proven that he didn't do it. So much evidence out there points to other people and other suspects. Hardly any evidence points towards Stephen Avery, but yet they're choosing to keep him in prison. I don't understand. I'll never understand. But again, I'm going to end part 2 right there. Go pick up The Illusion of Justice. Inside Making a Murderer and America's Broken Justice System. Such a good read. You need to read the entire book. So good. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you again soon.